I never thought I'd be hiding in my own office bathroom, pressed against the cold tile wall, straining to hear my mother-in-law plotting to destroy my career. But there I was, holding my breath as Veronica Everhart's voice drifted through the ventilation system from the conference room below. My name is Callie, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I was having a pretty decent day. I'd just closed a major deal with our biggest client, the kind of win that usually meant celebration drinks and proud smiles from my husband Nolan. Instead, I was learning just how much my family wanted me gone. She's not Everhart material, Bianca. She never was. Veronica's voice carried that familiar aristocratic edge that always made me feel like I needed to check if there was dirt on my shoes. Your brother made a mistake marrying her, but we can at least fix the business side of things. I heard my sister-in-law's eager reply. I can take over her accounts within a month. My MBA dash. Yes, dear, we know about your Master of Business Administration. Veronica cut her off. The board meeting next week is our chance. I've already spoken to several members about restructuring the sales department. With your qualifications and the family name, it should be a smooth transition. My hands started shaking. 6 years of building client relationships, of proving myself worthy of the Everhart name, and they were going to erase it all in a single board meeting. I pressed my palm against my mouth to keep from making a sound as Bianca continued outlining their plans. What about Nolan? Bianca asked. He's always been protective of her. Leave your brother to me, Veronica replied. He needs to understand that some sacrifices are necessary for the family's legacy. The familiar click of Veronica's heels signaled their departure, but I stayed frozen in place, my mind racing. Every awkward family dinner, every backhanded compliment, every time Veronica had introduced me as Nolan's wife instead of by my position in the company. It all made terrible sense now. I finally stepped out of the bathroom on unsteady legs, catching my reflection in the mirror. My carefully applied makeup couldn't hide how pale I'd gone, and my dark hair was coming loose from its professional updo. I looked exactly like what Veronica had always seen, an outsider trying too hard to fit in. The walk back to my office felt like moving through fog. I barely noticed Jasper, our operations manager, until he touched my arm. Callie? You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a smile. I'm fine, just thinking about the Langston account. You mean the one you just landed? He raised an eyebrow. The one that's going to boost our quarterly numbers by 30%? Yeah, that must be really stressful. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Nolan. Dinner tonight? Mom wants to discuss something important. My stomach lurched. Of course she did. I typed back. Can't tonight. Working late on Langston contract details. His response was immediate. Come on, Cal. You know how she gets. Please. 6 years ago, I'd fallen in love with Nolan's warm smile and kind heart. I'd thought his family's cold shoulder was just temporary, that they'd warm up once they saw how dedicated I was to both Nolan and the company. Now I realized I'd been naive. I looked at the family photos on my desk, holiday gatherings where I stood slightly apart, corporate events where Veronica managed to place Bianca front and center. All those little signs I'd ignored. Sorry, I texted back. Really can't make it. I turned to Jasper, who was still watching me with concern. Actually, I could use your help with something. What do you know about board meeting procedures? He tilted his head, curious. Enough to be dangerous. Why? I squared my shoulders, feeling the first spark of anger cutting through my shock. Because I think it's time I learned how to play this game by the Everhart rules. My phone buzzed again, probably Nolan or Veronica, but I ignored it. I had 1 week to save everything I'd worked for, and I wasn't going down without a fight. The morning after discovering Veronica's plan, I walked into the office to find Bianca sitting at my desk, flipping through my client files. She looked up with that practiced, innocent expression I'd seen her perfect over years of family dinners. Oh, Callie, I hope you don't mind. Mother thought it would be good for me to shadow you for a while, learn the ropes of the sales department. I set my coffee down harder than necessary, watching it slosh against the sides of the cup. Funny, no one mentioned that to me. It was just decided this morning. Bianca's smile didn't reach her eyes. Actually, I've already scheduled meetings with the Langston Group for later today. I thought I could take point on their account, give you a break. My stomach dropped. The Langston account was my biggest win, worth millions to the company. That won't be necessary. Mr. Langston specifically requested to work with me. Well, things change. She straightened her designer blazer. Mother thinks it's important to have an Everhart handling our premium clients. Before I could respond, Nolan appeared in the doorway. There are my two favorite ladies. Getting along already. I watched him cross the room, noting how he kissed Bianca's cheek first before coming to me. Small gestures like that had been adding up lately, like grains of sand in an hourglass measuring the time until my marriage crumbled. "Honey," I said, keeping my voice steady, "can we talk privately?" In my small office bathroom, the same one where I'd overheard their plot, I told Nolan everything. The conversation I'd overheard, Veronica's plans, Bianca's sudden appearance at my desk. With each word, I watched his face shift from concern to that careful blank expression he wore during difficult business negotiations. "You must have misunderstood," he said finally. "Mother would never dash." "Stop." My voice cracked. "Please don't do that. Don't pretend this isn't exactly what she's always wanted." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit from childhood according to the family photos in his office. "What do you want me to do, Callie? Tell my mother and sister they can't be involved in the family business. I want you to stand up for me. For us." I reached for his hand, but he stepped back. "It's complicated, Dash." "It's really not." I felt something break inside me, like a dam giving way. "Your mother is trying to push me out of the company, and you're letting her." A knock at the door made us both jump. Jasper's voice came through. "Callie? Mr. Langston is on line 1. He's not happy about something." Nolan seized the interruption like a lifeline. "We'll talk about this later, okay? Just try to work with Bianca. For me." I watched him leave, then pressed my forehead against the cool mirror. When I finally returned to my desk, Bianca was gone, but she'd left her mark. My files were reorganized, my calendar had been accessed, and there was a new photo frame on my desk, a picture of her and Nolan as children, their mother beaming between them. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasper. "Emergency meeting called for 3 p.m. Board members flying in. Something big happening." I looked out my office window at the city below, remembering the day Nolan had proposed. We'd been right there in that park across the street, and he'd promised me we'd build something amazing together. Now I wondered if I'd been building on quicksand all along. My computer pinged with a new email from Veronica, addressed to the entire sales team. "Please join me in welcoming Bianca Everhart as our new Associate Sales Director. Her expertise will be invaluable as we move forward with restructuring the department." I closed the email and opened my client files instead. If they wanted a war, they'd get one. But first, I needed to call Mr. Langston and find out exactly what Bianca had said to upset our most valuable client. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about being so damn good at what you do that they destroy themselves trying to take you down. The quarterly reports landed on my desk like a bomb waiting to explode. 3 weeks of Bianca's leadership had done exactly what I'd expected. The Langston account was in shambles. I flipped through page after page of mishandled transactions, unauthorized promises, and botched negotiations. My phone lit up with Mr. Langston's name for the 3rd time that morning. I'd been dodging his calls, buying time while I figured out how to fix this mess without destroying what little was left of my marriage. "You need to see this," Jasper said, appearing in my doorway with more papers. "Bianca just submitted a proposal to restructure our entire client portfolio. She's planning to redistribute all your accounts." I skimmed the document, my hands shaking. "She's splitting up the Langston subsidiaries between 5 different account managers. That'll destroy the integrated service model we spent 2 years building." "That's not all." Jasper lowered his voice. "Look at page 4. There it was, buried in corporate jargon. A recommendation to terminate my position due to redundancy in the organizational structure." The office suddenly felt too small, too warm. I grabbed my laptop and the reports. "I need to talk to Nolan. Now." I found him in the conference room with Veronica and Bianca, all 3 heads bent over some presentation. The family resemblance had never been more striking, or more alienating. "We need to discuss the Langston account," I said, trying to keep my voice professional despite the fury building in my chest. Veronica's perfectly lined lips curved into a smile. "Bianca has everything under control, dear. No need to worry yourself." "Under control?" I dropped the reports on the table. "She's destroyed 6 months of work in 3 weeks. Mr. Langston is threatening to pull his business." Bianca's face flushed. "I'm implementing a more efficient system, Dash. You're implementing chaos." I turned to Nolan. "Look at the numbers. Really look at them." He picked up the report, but Veronica placed her hand over his. "Nolan, darling, remember what we discussed about emotional decisions versus business ones?" "Emotional." I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Okay, let's talk business." Bianca's efficient system has cost us 15% in projected revenue. She's alienated our biggest client, and now she's trying to dismantle the entire sales structure to cover her incompetence. That's enough. Nolan's voice cracked like a whip. Callie, you're obviously upset about the changes, but attacking Bianca isn't helping. Attacking her? I stared at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. I'm trying to save our company. Our company? Veronica's voice dripped with disdain. I think you're forgetting your place, dear. This is the Everhart family business. Something snapped inside me. I pulled up my email on the conference room screen and opened Mr. Langston's latest message. Read it. Out loud, Nolan. Read what your sister's leadership has done to our relationship with our most valuable client. The room fell silent as Nolan scanned the email, his face growing paler with each line. Bianca shifted in her seat, her confident facade cracking. This isn't. I didn't. She stammered. Mother, Nolan said quietly. Could you and Bianca give us a minute? Absolutely not, Veronica replied. Whatever needs to be said can be said in front of family. Fine. I pulled up another document. Then let's talk about this termination proposal. Were you planning to tell me about it, Nolan? Or were you going to let your sister handle that too? His head snapped up. What termination proposal? But before anyone could respond, Jasper burst into the room. Mr. Langston is here. In person. And he's furious. Through the glass walls, I could see Mr. Langston stalking across the office floor, his face thunderous. Bianca went pale, Veronica straightened her spine, and Nolan looked like he might be sick. I gathered my things, a strange calm settling over me. I'll handle this. But afterward, we're going to have a very different conversation about the future of this company and our marriage. As I walked out, I heard Veronica hiss. Do something, Nolan. But for once, my husband stayed silent, and that silence said everything about where we stood. I spent 3 hours in damage control with Mr. Langston, watching 6 years of carefully built trust crumble like sand between my fingers. When I finally emerged from the conference room, my throat was raw from talking, and my hands trembled as I gathered my things. How bad is it? Jasper asked, falling into step beside me. He's giving us 2 weeks to fix everything Bianca messed up, or he's taking his business elsewhere. I stopped at my office door, staring at the nameplate that now seemed more like a countdown timer. Where is everyone? Emergency board meeting. They didn't invite you. Of course they hadn't. I dropped into my chair, noticing the family photo on my desk had been replaced again. This time with a framed copy of Bianca's Master of Business Administration diploma. The pettiness of it almost made me laugh. My phone buzzed with a text from Nolan. Where are you? Mother's presenting the restructuring plan. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and started downloading every file, every email, every piece of evidence of what Bianca's leadership had done to our clients. I wasn't going down without proof. Callie. Jasper's voice was unusually serious. There's something else you should know. I overheard Veronica on the phone earlier. She's been meeting with Harrison and Mills. My stomach dropped. Harrison and Mills was our biggest competitor. Why would she dash? They're discussing a merger. One that would effectively dissolve our sales department and integrate their team instead. The room spun slightly. A merger would mean everyone in my department would lose their jobs. Not just me, but the entire team I'd built. All to get rid of one unwanted daughter-in-law. My phone rang, Nolan again. This time I answered. Where are you? He sounded stressed. The board's asking questions about the Langston situation. Are they? Funny how nobody asked me. You know, the person who just spent 3 hours saving our biggest account. Don't be difficult, Callie. Just come up here and dash. And what? Watch while your mother and sister dismantle everything we've built? Listen to more lies about how I'm the problem. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, he said quietly, they're not lying about everything. The numbers dash. The numbers are manipulated, and you know it. My voice cracked. But that's not even the point anymore. When was I going to hear about Harrison and Mills? His sharp intake of breath told me everything. Who told you about that? Does it matter? Were you going to tell me before or after I was unemployed? It's not what you think. Mother says dash. Mother says. Mother thinks. Mother wants. I pressed my palm against my burning eyes. When was the last time you thought for yourself, Nolan? More silence. Then, just come to the meeting. Please. We can figure this out. I looked at Jasper, who was pretending not to listen while organizing files. I thought about my team, about the clients who trusted us, about the life I'd thought I was building. No, I said finally. I'm done playing by Veronica's rules. You want to know where I am? I'm in my office, preparing evidence of every mistake, every mishandled account, every illegal promise Bianca has made in the last month. And tomorrow morning, I'm taking it all to the board, with or without your support. Callie, don't dash. One more thing. I cut him off. Check your email. Mr. Langston sent over his conditions for staying with us. Spoiler alert. They all involve removing Bianca from his accounts and restoring the original management structure. So you have a choice to make, your mother's pride or the company's future. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were steady now, anger burning away the uncertainty. What do you need? Jasper asked quietly. Access to the archived files from before Bianca started. And I hesitated, then pulled out my wedding ring, setting it on the desk next to Bianca's diploma. Some boxes. I think it's time I cleared out my office. Sometimes the hardest part of fighting back isn't facing your enemies. It's accepting that the people you thought would fight beside you are the ones you're fighting against. The call came at 3 a.m. I was still at the office, surrounded by stacks of evidence I'd compiled against Bianca, when Jasper burst through the door. Nolan's been in an accident. The world tilted sideways. I grabbed my keys, dropping files across the floor, but Jasper caught my arm. Veronica's already at the hospital. He hesitated. She's telling staff you're not family. Of course she was. I snatched my phone, dialing Nolan's number out of habit, only to hear it ringing from his empty office down the hall. The sound echoed like a ghost. I'll drive, Jasper said quietly. At the hospital, Veronica stood like a sentinel outside the ICU, Bianca at her side. Their matching Everhart blue blazers made them look like guards at a fortress I wasn't meant to breach. He's in surgery, Veronica announced before I could speak. Family only. I'm his wife. For now. She smiled thinly. Though given recent events, I imagine that status might change soon. My hands clenched. What happened? He was upset after your little ultimatum. Bianca's voice dripped with accusation. Driving too fast, I expect. The implication hit like a slap. They were blaming me for this. Before I could respond, a doctor approached with updates about head trauma, internal bleeding, and induced coma. The words blurred together as I watched Veronica and Bianca nod along, making decisions about my husband's care without even glancing my way. I need to see him, I said when the doctor finished. That won't be necessary. Veronica's voice could have frozen hell. We've got everything under control. In fact, given the circumstances, I think it's best you return to the office. Someone needs to handle the transition. Transition? Bianca pulled out a folder. Emergency succession protocols. As the only blood relative with executive experience, I'll be taking temporary control of operations while Nolan recovers. You can't dash. Actually, we can. Veronica produced another document. Nolan's will is quite clear about succession rights. Blood relatives only. You should read it carefully, dear. Consider it professional development. My vision tunneled. All those nights Nolan had worked late with his mother on estate planning. This was what they'd been doing, ensuring I could never threaten the precious Everhart legacy. Mrs. Everhart? A nurse appeared. Your son is asking for someone. It sounds like Cal. Hope flared in my chest, but Veronica stepped forward smoothly. That would be Calvin, his childhood friend. We'll explain that he can't be here right now. The nurse frowned. I thought dash. Thank you, we'll handle it. Veronica's tone left no room for argument. I watched them disappear into the ICU, these women who'd orchestrated my removal from every aspect of my life with surgical precision. Even now, they were rewriting my existence, turning Cal into Calvin, erasing me from Nolan's story one piece at a time. My phone buzzed. An email from Bianca to the entire company announcing her temporary leadership position, effective immediately. Below it was a message from Mr. Langston. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Non-negotiable. Callie. Jasper touched my shoulder. There's something else you should see. He handed me his tablet, showing security footage from the parking garage. Nolan's car leaving the office. A second car, Bianca's, following close behind. The timestamp matched exactly when I'd issued my ultimatum about the board meeting. The police should dash. The police, Veronica's voice cut in as she returned, have already ruled it an accident. Single car mechanical failure. Such a tragedy. She placed special emphasis on mechanical, her eyes meeting mine in clear challenge. The message was crystal clear. They'd thought of everything. They always did. I looked through the ICU window at my husband, lying still among machines and tubes. Then down at the wedding ring I'd put back on for the hospital visit. 6 years of marriage, of fighting to belong, of loving a man who'd let his family write me out of his life before he'd even met me. "You win," I said quietly, turning to leave. "Oh, darling," Veronica called after me. "We won a long time ago. You're just finally catching up." But she was wrong. This wasn't over. Because she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I had nothing left to lose. The 9 a.m. meeting with Mr. Langston wasn't going well. I sat across from him in his downtown office, watching 6 years of relationship-building crumble as Bianca fumbled through another presentation. "Miss Everhart," he interrupted, "you've just proposed exactly what your predecessor, Mrs. Everhart here, advised against 3 months ago." Bianca's perfectly manicured nails dug into her portfolio. "The market conditions have changed, Dash. The only thing that's changed is the leadership." He turned to me. "Callie, what's your take on this mess?" Before I could answer, Veronica swept into the room, all designer suit and practiced concern. "Mr. Langston, I apologize for the confusion. Callie is no longer authorized to speak on behalf of Everhart Trading. Then I'm no longer authorized to do business with you." He stood straightening his tie. "My contract was with Callie. She leaves, we leave. That won't be necessary." Veronica's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We have something that might change your mind." She slid a document across the table, a copy of the confidentiality agreement I'd signed when joining the company. Highlighted in yellow was a clause about client relationships post-employment. "If Callie attempts to maintain any professional contact with Everhart clients," Veronica explained smoothly, "we'll be forced to pursue legal action. Against both parties." Mr. Langston's face hardened. "You'd sue your own clients? We protect our interests." Veronica's voice could have frozen hell. "By any means necessary." The meeting ended shortly after, with Mr. Langston storming out and Bianca trailing behind, trying to salvage something from the wreckage. I stayed seated, staring at the agreement that had just destroyed my last hope of fighting back. "You know," Veronica mused, collecting her things, "this could have been avoided if you'd just accepted your place. As Nolan's wife, nothing more. Is that why you had Bianca follow him that night?" Her hand paused over her briefcase. "Careful, dear. Accusations like that could be considered slander. And with Nolan still in his condition." My phone buzzed, Jasper calling. I ignored it. He'd been trying to reach me all morning with updates about the security footage, but what was the point now? Veronica had thought of everything. "You should visit him," she continued. "While you still can. The divorce papers are being drawn up as we speak. He's in a coma. Power of attorney is a wonderful thing." She patted my shoulder as she passed. "Don't worry, we'll make sure he's well taken care of. Bye, family." I waited until she left before pulling out my own copy of Nolan's will, the one I'd found in his home office the night before. The blood relatives only clause was there, highlighted and initialed by Veronica herself. But there was something else, something that had been nagging at me since I'd read it. My phone buzzed again. This time I answered. "The footage is gone," Jasper said without preamble. "Someone wiped the entire system last night. But I managed to save Dash. It doesn't matter anymore." I traced the words on the will with my finger. "They've won. Callie Dash." But I just realized something. I sat up straighter, reading the clause again. Veronica's been so focused on blood relatives, she forgot about blood types. "What?" "Nolan's medical records. I need them. And I need everything you can find about Bianca's birth." "Why?" I thought about Veronica's perfect planning, about how she'd orchestrated every detail of my removal, about how sometimes the most obvious truth is hidden in plain sight. Because according to this will, only blood relatives can inherit. And I don't think Bianca is one. The silence on the other end stretched for a moment before Jasper let out a low whistle. "That's why she's always been the favorite. Veronica's been overcompensating." "Exactly. And if we can prove it, Dash, they'll destroy you. They already have." I stood, gathering my things. But maybe that's what I needed. Because now I can see what they couldn't. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning. What's it about? I looked at my reflection in the office window, seeing not the broken woman they'd tried to create, but someone stronger. Someone dangerous. It's about making sure everyone loses together. The emergency board meeting was already in session when I walked in, Jasper at my side with a manila envelope tucked under his arm. Veronica stood at the head of the table, mid-speech about succession planning, while Bianca sat in Nolan's chair like she'd been born to it. "I'm afraid this is a closed meeting," Veronica said, her smile razor-sharp. "Actually, I placed a stack of documents on the table. I think you'll want to hear this." Security. Bianca reached for the phone, but Jasper was faster. Already handled. They're quite interested in the footage of you following Nolan's car that night. The color drained from Bianca's face. Veronica's smile didn't waver, but her knuckles went white around her pen. The board has already accepted Bianca's position, she said smoothly. The will is quite clear about blood relatives. Funny you should mention blood. I opened the first folder. Did you know Nolan has typo-negative blood? Rare, but well documented in his medical records. And according to these, I slid another document forward. His father was type-A-positive. The room went deadly quiet. One of the board members picked up the paper, frowning. Basic genetics, I continued. It's impossible for two type-A parents to have a type-O child. But that's not the interesting part. Veronica's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. The interesting part, I raised my voice, is Bianca's birth certificate. The original one, not the amended version filed 2 years later. Bianca's hands began to shake. Mother? Don't, Veronica snapped, but it was too late. Your mother's been overcompensating for years, hasn't she, Bianca? Making sure you got every advantage, every opportunity. Not because you earned it, but because she felt guilty. That's enough. Veronica slammed her hand on the table. No, it's not. I turned to the board. The will specifies blood relatives only. Bianca isn't one. She never was. Chaos erupted. Board members talking over each other, Bianca crying, Veronica trying to regain control. Through it all, I stayed standing, watching years of careful manipulation unravel. Then a voice cut through the noise. Let me see those papers. Everyone froze. Nolan stood in the doorway, pale and leaning heavily on a walker, but very much awake. Darling, Veronica rushed forward. You should be in bed. I said. His voice was hoarse but firm. Let me see the papers. I handed him the folder, our fingers brushing. His hand was cold, but his grip was strong. How long have you known? He asked his mother as he read. Nolan, please. How long? Since the day she was born. Veronica's voice cracked. Your father. He would have destroyed us if he'd known. I had to protect our family. By lying? By trying to destroy my marriage? By having Bianca follow me that night? That was an accident. Bianca sobbed. I just wanted to talk to you, to explain. Enough. Nolan's voice was ice. He turned to the board. I trust you'll find my wife's evidence compelling enough to void any decisions made in my absence. The chairman nodded quickly. Veronica stepped forward one last time. Everything I did was for this family. No, Nolan replied. Everything you did was for control. And now you've lost it. He held out his hand to me. Take me home, Cal. I moved to support him, feeling his weight settle against me. As we turned to leave, Bianca called out. What about me? I looked back at her, seeing not the polished executive, but a scared woman whose entire identity had just shattered. That depends, I said quietly. Are you ready to earn your place instead of stealing someone else's? She met my eyes for the first time without hostility, and nodded slowly. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about being strong enough to offer them a chance at redemption, but on your terms, not theirs. As we left, I heard Veronica's heels clicking rapidly away in the opposite direction. She might have lost this battle, but I knew better than to think the war was over. But that was tomorrow's problem. Today, I had my husband back and we had a company to rebuild. Together. 6 months after the board meeting showdown, I stood in my office, packing the last of my personal items. Not because I was leaving, quite the opposite. I was moving into a larger space down the hall, one with a view of both the city and the future I'd fought so hard to secure. The door opened and Bianca stepped in, carrying a stack of reports. She'd traded her designer suits for more practical business and the constant need to prove herself had been replaced by something quieter, more genuine. The Langston Quarterly Review, she said, placing them on my desk. I've highlighted the areas where we could improve efficiency. I flipped through the pages, noting her careful analysis. Good work. Why don't you present these findings at next week's meeting? She looked startled. Are you sure? You earned it. I met her eyes. The right way this time. She nodded, understanding the weight of those words. As she turned to leave, she paused. Have you heard from Mother? Not since she moved to Europe. I didn't mention the occasional threatening emails or the lawyers she still sent our way. Some wounds needed time to heal, or at least scar over properly. Nolan appeared in the doorway, leaning on his cane. His recovery had been slow but steady, much like the rebuilding of our relationship. Ready for lunch? Almost. I gathered my things, including the small sonogram photo I'd been waiting to show him. Some news deserved to be delivered in person. We took the elevator down together, Bianca heading to her department while Nolan and I stepped out into the bright spring day. The park where he'd proposed was blooming again, life returning after a long winter. Jasper called, he said as we walked. The merger with Harrison and Mills is officially dead. Turns out they were more interested in Mother's promises than our actual business model. I squeezed his hand. Are you okay? With all of it? He stopped, turning to face me. You know what I realized while I was in that coma? I could hear everything. Every scheme, every lie, every time someone tried to speak for me instead of to me. His voice softened. And every time you fought for what we built together. We all fought for something, I said, thinking of Bianca's slow journey toward redemption, of Jasper's quiet loyalty, of Mr. Langston's faith in second chances. Some of us just took longer to figure out what was worth fighting for. Speaking of fighting, he pulled out an envelope. These came this morning. Mother's lawyers again. I took the envelope but didn't open it. Instead, I handed him the sonogram photo. I think we have more important things to focus on. His eyes widened as he understood what he was seeing. Is this? Due in winter. I smiled. Apparently the Everhart legacy will continue after all, just not quite how your mother planned. He pulled me close, and for a moment we just stood there, surrounded by spring flowers and possibilities. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Bianca about an urgent client matter. Back to work? Nolan asked. Always. I took his arm as we turned back toward the office. But this time we're doing it right. Building something worth inheriting, not just something worth fighting over. As we walked, I thought about revenge and redemption, about how sometimes the best victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in becoming strong enough to offer them grace. About how family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about choice, about trust rebuilt and lessons learned the hard way. The envelope from Veronica's lawyers crinkled in my bag, unopened. Whatever threats or schemes it contained could wait. We had a company to run, a baby to prepare for, and a future to build. And this time we were building it together, on a foundation of truth instead of manipulation, of earned trust instead of inherited power. It wasn't perfect, family never is, but it was ours. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about finding the strength to write your own story, even when others try to write it for you. And our story, it was just beginning.